to be good at fractions at this point, okay? We've done stuff with fractions. I've noticed it's been a struggle anytime that we work with fractions this year, anytime. Guess what? We're not done. They're going to be for the rest of the year as well as the stuff that we are working with. So let's make sure we remember the basics again of fractions. So we already did multiplying and dividing rational expressions, which are just really nasty looking fractions, right? But we still have to add and subtract. So let's go back together, and I want you to think about it right here. Here's our two fractions. We have 3/4 plus 3/16. If you were adding these together, what's the one thing you know you need to have when you add fractions? So here's my question. Would you just instantly just multiply the two denominators together and say good enough? I heard sometimes. Why just sometimes?
Sometimes like this problem, you know, 4 can be multiplied by itself to 16.
Yeah, so if you multiply them together, would you guys agree with me we got a common denominator? Awesome. Guess what? You just have to simplify a lot more later. Okay? You could do it. Did everyone hear me on this? You could do that. But what if we instead use the idea of common factors to help us out? Guys, what are two factors of 16 that are very common? 4 and what? 4 and 4. Oh wait, they both have a 4 in what? Common. So how can I make it very simple to get the common denominator? What would we all do? Yeah, instead, because we don't want the numbers to get really big, we're like, hey, we will use the fact that 4 times 4 would give me 16, and that 16 becomes my least common denominator. So remember we used LCD, we had GCF, greatest common factors, and now we have the LCD, the least common denominator. Now, in this problem, it makes it really easy, right? You look at it and you're like, hey, no, there's a smaller one to do. It'd be 16. Now, let's do it real quick. What's the math behind this? Well, that's 12 over 16 plus 3 over 16, which gives us what? 15 over 16. And then we ask ourselves, just like we always do, should I simplify this further, and what do we get this time? No, because there wasn't a common factor to take out, just like we did before. Now, what if it had been just a what if moment here? What if I got 14 over 16? Would I have to simplify that one? Yeah, because there's a common factor of what in each of those? 2. And we'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be 7/8. So do you have to constantly ask yourself, am I done? Just like when we factored, can I go further? When you're working with fractions, have I simplified enough? Have I reduced it enough when we're working with it? Now, I want you to think about the following. How in the world would I think about the least common denominator for this first one? Do you guys agree with me? Those are just two rational expressions. Remember, rational expressions are just fractions with variables in them, right? How in the world would I come out and figure out my least common denominator for this one? Yeah.
When you look at the bottom of the right column, it's just that square of the first column.
Yeah, so it's x minus 1 really times what? X minus 1. Do you guys agree with me? I already have this was x minus 1. So, do I have anything in common? Oh wait, the x minus 1. It was kind of like our what earlier? Our 4 in common, right? So you're right. If we have an x, oops, I knew I was going to do that after I did. Here we go. So what would be my least common denominator? X minus 1. Careful. It's too small if it's just the common factor. It's least common denominator. So it's x minus 1 being what? Squared. So what would I have to do to this other fraction? What would you have to multiply by so I could add them together? Yeah, so I'd have an x minus 1 here in the denominator, but I'd also have to have an x minus 1 to the numerator. So since they had that common factor, we make it really easy, just like what we did before, and go, okay, what's the smallest thing I have to multiply to it to get it to be in common? And that would just been another x minus 1. But nice thing is, I didn't have to do anything to the second fraction, which is beautiful. But, all right, I kind of lied. Did I kind of have to do something on the second fraction? What did I do to this? Did we kind of write it with our factors instead? Factors. You mean we're going to have to probably look for different ones. Now, these don't have differences squared because that's x minus 1, right? But should we always look for that? So to do this well, maybe we're going to have to factor. Nice thing about it is really we just worry about factoring the denominators at first. Would you guys agree? Because that's how we get common denominators. All right, so let's look at this one over here. I got 2 times the quantity, 2x minus 1 squared, over 2x minus 1 squared, plus 3 over the quantity 2x minus 1 cubed, minus 4 times the quantity 2x minus 1. Now I'm just going to get in the habit of putting this here because I think that will help you guys visualize this a little bit more. I want to know my least common denominator of this. Alright, just goes, here I have 2, correct? This one I have how many? 3. But what's my common denominator? 2x minus 1, right? But I need to get my least common denominator, which means all of them can be a multiple of it, right? That we have a multiple of that number. Well, what's going to be the smallest one?
2x minus 1 cubed.
Yep, to the third power. So 2x minus 1, that quantity being cubed, or you could say 2x minus 1 raised to the third power. Excellent. So what would I have to do to my first fraction? What would I have to multiply by? Yeah, so I'd have to go 2x minus 1, and again, we have to remember distribution when we're doing this. And then on our last one, what would we have to multiply by?
2x minus 1 squared.
2, but doable. Would you guys agree? So the fact is, do the rules really change for adding or subtracting fractions? No. We have to get a common what? Denominator. And when we're working with rational expressions, we don't want big ones because that means a lot more, think about it, multiplying and simplifying that you have to do. So we want to approach it with the least common denominator. So what's going to be the key? If you have factorable denominators, factor. And then get your least common denominator. Are you guys with me on that? Yes, sir. Question? Yes. Okay, so let's do we got some easy warm-ups. I think we can do easy warm-ups. What do you guys think? Okay, so we have 3/4 plus 5/8. Guys, what's going to be our common denominator? 8. Yeah, so our least common denominator this time is just 8 because they have a common factor of what? 4. So we kept it pretty simple there. So we're like, okay, this needs to be over 8, over 8. Do I have to do anything to the second fraction? No, because it's already fine. And then we just take our first one, and we multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2, and we just get 6/8 plus 5/8. This is when it's fun, and we get what? 11/8. Now, ask yourself the question, can I simplify more? And ask yourself this question, do I have to change it to a mixed number? And the answer is no. Here's the thing you need to remember. Can you check this on your calculator? Yeah, if you borrow a calculator from me, you have to go alpha y equals. Otherwise, can't you just put the fraction in on your calculator, hit enter, and see if it simplifies or not? Yeah. All right, so make sure that we have those. All right, let's look at the next one. This one should be easy. Guys, what is going to be our common denominator this time? How would I figure it out? We go, all right, well, I know 15 factors. I got 3 and 1. All right, but what does 11 factor into? 111. Is there anything in common? So this time you have to do what? This time you have to multiply everything together. So this time my least common denominator is going to be the 3 times 5 times 11, or aka 15 times 11, which is going to be Does anyone know what that is? Where's your calculators? We're in math class.
155.
Should be 165 ideally. Isn't it 165?
Yeah.
Someone double check me, but I'm pretty sure it's 165. But friends, you gotta be able to do this. So now what are we gonna do to the first equation? What do we have to multiply everything by?
11.
So really we're multiplying by 11 over 11, or 11 times 4, 11 times 55. So that becomes 44 minus, let's do this separate, 165. What do I have to do to the second one? So I have to multiply this by 15, this one by 15, or you could say by 15 over 15, either way. And what do we get for that? What's 15 times 5? Guys, 5 times 7 is 35. You put the 5 down, you carry the 3. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10, so it'd be 105 over 165. Now, this is what we've got so far. Now, friends, let's go. Yeah, I don't love that right there, so I'm getting rid of it just so it makes a little more sense. So here's my equal on here. Now, how do we do this? Some of you need to write this step down. Some of you don't have to write that step down. Why would I want you to do that? So don't, yeah. Yeah, so I don't subtract the 165s. When we do it, we get a common denominator, and that's just so I can subtract the numerators, correct? So when we do this, what is 44 minus 105? First of all, you should be really able to tell me, is that positive or negative? So negative 61 over 165. Guys, can I simplify anything out of this? And the answer is no. You cannot. Okay, now those are nice and fun. Would you guys agree? Alright, so let's have a great time. Let's start doing it with more of our rational expressions that don't just have constants in it. Now, looking at this one, what would be our least common denominator? What do I have to do? This time, do they have any common factors, the 2 and the denominator? No. So what do we have to do? We're going to have to multiply them together. Correct? Okay. So, what do we do? Talk to me. What do I do to the fraction on the left? So I go plus 1. Multiply this one by plus 1. Guess what you should probably do so that way you don't forget to distribute carefully. You go m plus 1. What do I have to do for the one on the right? So this would be m minus 1, and this would be m minus 1. Guys, how do I multiply two binomials together? What process do we use? Distribution, or what's the fancy word they use that we still do? FOIL? Distribution and FOIL are the exact same thing. You guys got that, right? So we're gonna FOIL. So we gotta actually FOIL that. So what's gonna be our denominators? Now, I'm gonna keep these separate for just a moment because I want you to realize this is true. Alright? And are these exactly the same thing? Now, let's do some FOILing. What's m times m? M squared. We gotta distribute. M times 1 is m. Then we distribute the 1. We're going to do our inside. 1 times m is m. And then we have our 1 times 1, which is 1. Okay, that's on the left. Let's do the same thing on the right. Now I got m minus 1 times m minus 1, so m times m is m squared. Then we go outside, which is a negative m. Inside's negative 1 times m is negative m. The negative times negative is a positive what? 1. Now, my denominator, I'm keeping it just like this. I'm not multiplying together. I'm going to keep it in simplest factored form because I want to make sure my life is pretty simple. Okay, looking at this, can I simplify any more? How about this first right here? What does that simplify to? M squared plus what? 2m plus 1. Alright. Plus, doesn't these two, don't they add together? Now, honestly, I probably should have written it like this. I think you might do better if I did. Just keep it for a moment like this, where we do a little more simplifying. Sorry, I backtracked. My fault. You can keep it the single denominator as well. But what do we get here? M squared minus 2m plus 1. Now guys, do I need the parentheses on the numerator? No, because it's what, son? Addition. If it was subtraction, would I want to make sure I distribute the negative first before we do anything else? Yes. Okay, now can we combine like terms? What do we get? So we get 2m squared plus 2. Okay, great. And that's going to be all over what, my friends? M plus 1 times m minus 1. Now, how do we know if we are in simplest form? Remember what form we liked before? Simplest what form? Factored form. So can I take a GCF out of the numerator?
Yes.
Which is a 2. And I get left m squared plus 1. Now, we have to decide. Do I have any common factors? Do we have any common factors? No, right? The m squared plus 1 is not the same thing as an m plus 1. Would you guys agree? So there's nothing there. So guess what? Your answer could be either the top one or the bottom one. Why would I like the bottom one? Can anyone guess? I'm taking out the GCF to make sure I can't do what? Simplify. I'm just checking to see, are there any common factors? Now, both of them, are they technically correct? Yes. Notice, did I waste the time multiplying the denominator together? No. Yes, sir? Yep. All right, guys. Love you all, but we need to be in class when we're doing stuff. Too many people left to go to the bathroom. Okay. Looking at the next one, we have the following. 8 over 3p plus 5 over 4p plus 9 over 2p. So looking at this one, what would be our least common denominator? I heard it really well. It's going to be what? 12. Excellent. It's 12 what? Yes, the p was the common one, right? So we have to include p in all of it. 2. Nice thing is there's a shared factor here. So I really only have to work with 2 ones. And so you literally just go 2 times 2 times 3, which is 12. So it'll be 12p. So do I have to change every single one of these? All right, what do I have to multiply the first one by? 4 to the numerator and the denominator. What do we have to multiply the second one by? 3. What about our last one? Then we go ahead and we write them down. Would you guys agree? What's our first fraction?
32.
So 32 over 12p plus, what do we get? 15 over 12p. Ooh, my 5 looks horrible. Sorry, y'all. Plus, what's our last one?
54 over 12p.
Okay, and then we add them all together, correct? What is 32 plus 15 plus 54? Should be 101, but double check me. 101, okay. So 101 over 12p. Now, friends, ask yourselves a question. Can I take anything out? Factors of 101, there's not very many. No. So the factor, this is in simplest form. Okay. Now, here's the hint with all of these. Oh, look, they get so nice. Here's the hint. Always make sure your denominator is in what? In what form? Factored form. Always make sure your denominator is in factored form. As a result, you can find your common denominators a lot what? Easier, correct? So let's do this one real quick, and let's do factored form, and let's do some rewriting. It's a little more writing, and here's the thing. Those of you who write more did better. Some of you improved how much work you showed, and it showed up on your test, and you did so much better. So keep it up. So on the first one, notice I'm not worrying about the denominators yet, but should I be able to factor x squared plus x minus 2? All right. What should it factor into? Is there any GCF?
75.
Is there any GCF? No. Okay. How many terms? So we gotta use what? Logical trial and error. What are the signs inside the parentheses? Yep. Awesome. Factors of x squared. Factors of 2. 2 and 1. Where do you put the 2? Where do you put the 1? Yep. That one's because you checked before you put it down almost, didn't you? You get to the point where you're like, ooh, it's positive. Big one goes with positive, right? Like you just start thinking that way. And that's the logical part about it. Great, you guys did a good job on that one. Okay, how about the next one? I have an x squared minus 5x plus 4. Is there a GCF? All right, so we're going to factor it here because it's a trinomial. What are my signs? Yep. How many of you are looking back now at your freshman year and go, why was that hard? Anyone? Like, you thought it was hard, now you're like, why was it hard? Okay, next one. So we have our x and x. Okay, factors of 4 we normally try are which ones? Is it the right one to try? No, because if you checked it, you got a negative 4x, and I need a negative what?
5.
So what's the one that you have to do?
4.
Excellent. So now let's rewrite our fractions here. So I'm going to do the first one here. So I get x over the quantity x plus 2 times x minus 1 minus 2 over the quantity x minus 1 times the quantity x minus 4. Okay, question. Do I have any common factors? All right, so that actually helps a little bit. Do you guys agree? Okay, oops, that's not what I meant to do. Come back here. Get what I wanted here. Yeah, so our common factor is x minus 1. Guys, what's going to be our common denominator? Oops, I did the wrong one. Hello, I told you I was tired. Okay. And you did what I asked, so I can't yell. Okay, good. All right, got me early. All right, so what is going to be our common denominator? What's it going to be? Are you going to have an x plus 2 in it?
Yes.
All right. What else do we have to have that we know both of them have?
X minus 1.
What else does it have to have?
X minus 4.
So that's going to be our first one.
Oh my days.
Yeah. This takes a lot more time. Why do you think we waited till you were in Algebra 2? Now, don't get me wrong. You were introduced to this in Algebra 1.
Well,
Okay.
I don't remember this. I don't
Doesn't mean you remembered it,
What do you mean?
but you did get it.
I do not
Guys, why do you think we reteach you so much in Algebra 2? All right. Now, oops, sorry. To get these, what did I have to multiply the first one by? I wanted to do that first. Look. Okay. You guys don't erase anything. You're fine. I got my minus 4 here. Okay. What did I have to multiply the first fraction by? So this is going to be your x minus 4. Now, I'm putting x minus 4 here, but where did I have it just a moment ago? In the denominator? Could you go ahead and just go put it there? Absolutely. What about our next one? What do we multiply by? So I have here my x plus 2, and I have my x plus 2. Now, what are our common denominators? Don't you love this stuff, my friends? All right, so denominator is going to be x plus 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 4. What does my numerator become? Because we got to do some work with it. What is it? So this is an x squared minus 4 what? X. I don't know why I kept that in red. But, oh wait, can I change that to green? Will it let me do it? I was hoping it would change. Never mind. There was a moment. I'm not going to go backwards and do it. We're good. I'm not going to worry. It should have done it, but it didn't do it.
You could do it on the old one though.
I can do it on the old one note, right? I'm not losing my mind? Okay. 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 There's moments where I'm like, please tell me it could work. Okay. What do we get for the next one?
2x plus 4.
Alright, so you said you had a 2x plus 4. Now, what have we not taken into account yet? Subtraction sign, so don't forget that. So we have here our x plus 2, our x minus 1, our x minus 4. Okay, now I'm gonna have to go sideways because I totally ran out of space. This is why we go down the page and then you write your next problem down. Guys, what am I gonna do on this very next part right here? Notice I kind of stopped. Do I do anything with that x squared minus 4x? Okay, you guys agree that's x squared minus 4x, but would you also agree this would be the same thing as going minus the quantity 2x plus 4? Oh, what do we have to do? Don't we have to distribute that? The x plus 2, your x minus 1, your x minus 4 is there in the denominator. What do we get here? X squared minus 4x minus 2x minus what? 4. Whew! Still not done yet. What do we get? X squared, not yet.
Minus
6x minus 4 all over x plus 2 times quantity x minus 1 times x minus 4. Now, you have to ask yourself, can I factor
Oh, of course.
x squared minus 6x minus 4?
I don't have space for this.
People, try it. Just do it right above it.
I don't want to.
Can it work? Hello. Any combination of 1 and 4 and 2 and 2 that I put together with an addition and a subtraction sign are going to give me a 6? There's no way. This is actually it. Welcome to working with rational expressions.
Welcome to death.
Here's the deal. When you're doing your homework, rewrite the problem and just go down the page. I would probably put the other one next to it and go down, like put 2 like in columns work. But you need to go every little step. This is one teachers like me for years have said, careful, write everything down. Because I know this type of stuff comes out in your future, okay? So you need to make sure that you have it. Now let's do another one. Let's do this one together. Let's get our last one. Okay, should we be able to factor these? Okay, numerators do we have to worry about? No, you factor which ones? Denominators, because that gives us our common denominators. X squared minus 1, does that have a GCF? But it goes what? I heard it, x what? Not x, y squared minus 1, excuse me. Oh, y, what is it? Yeah, y plus 1 and y what? Minus 1. Excellent. Okay, looking at our other one. Is there a GCF? No. Okay. What do we get? And y minus what? 1. Okay. So when we look at this, we have a common one, which is what? Y minus 1. So let's talk about what we're going to have to multiply to get our common denominator. So I know I'm going to have a y plus 1 here, a y minus 1. But what would I have to multiply by? Yep, I have to, first one I have to do by another y minus 1. So I get here a y minus 1 times what? Common denominator. Remember, if I get a common denominator, we multiply by what's missing. Then we got subtract. What came over here? I had a y minus 1 and a y minus 1. What do we need to multiply by? No. This would be a y plus 1, wouldn't it? So we get here and we get a y, and then I have another y plus 1 here. Are we still doing the exact same thing we did with numbers, just with nasty algebraic expressions, right? We're just using polynomials now. Okay? What do we get for the first one? So y squared minus 1. Oh, it should be minus y, isn't it? Y. Yep, sorry. Minus y over, guys, should we I think we can make our lives a little easier. Should we just do right here? So y minus 1, y plus 1, y minus 1. Minus what? Y times, no, I would write this down first. Too many people mess that up. So I would make sure that the negative sign goes. And you distribute with that negative sign. Guess where was some of the issues on the test? People didn't distribute their negative signs well.
It would
Alright.
be the same thing, right?
What do you got?
First, well, I mean, on the first fraction, you know how you do this, and it just went to the y squared minus y. You could do the same thing with the second.
Well, yeah,
Right.
you could. It's just that you want to make sure you're careful with the negative. If you did, here's the reason why I didn't. Caleb just asked, he goes, why didn't I just write y squared plus y there? Because if I did, I'd had to remember to put what here? A parenthesis around it. So if you did, because you still have to subtract it. So this way, what did I save myself doing? I don't have to worry about putting that extra parenthesis, and I can distribute the negative as I go. So this becomes a negative y squared minus y all over, what do we get? Y minus 1, y plus 1, y minus 1. What? You could square the y minus 1 and square it if you wanted to. You could sit there if you don't like that here, guys. Could you do this? Would you guys agree? Would that be okay?
Would that be correct in our answer?
Yeah, because it's the same thing. It's just using excellence. All right, combine like terms. What do we have left?
Negative 2y.
A negative 2y. Okay. So we got negative 2y over the quantity y minus 1 squared times quantity y plus 1. Now, this would be in simplest factored form. What happens if you're doing an SAT or ACT and the final answer doesn't look like that?
27.
What would you do?
Redo problem.
What would the people, is this truly in simplest form?
No. Yes.
No, this is in simplest what form?
Factored form.
What do you normally do simplest form? What would you have to do? Multiply them together, exactly. So if you were doing this, so we're going sidebar over here, how would you multiply that carefully together? How would I simplify that?
First take y minus 1.
Yep. Okay, Caleb, am I talking and you're not, correct? Thank you. So let's try that. All right, so we have our y plus 1. Now, let's try to make this as easy as possible. Does anyone see lovely conjugates here? Do you guys agree with me on that? If that's conjugates, isn't that what we normally get with the difference of squares? So don't we really get y minus 1 times, what's those two multiplied together? Y squared minus, no, what? What's 1 times 1? 1. Okay, I know I've been making mistakes today, but 1 times 1 is definitely y.
2.
Wow, very good. Okay, now what? We haven't finished simplifying. This is just the denominator process. Do you see why I leave it in simplest factor form now? What do you do now to simplify it? Distribute, yeah. So I distribute the y first, so that's y cubed minus y. Then subtract the negatives. We got negative y squared plus a positive 1. And then when you rewrite it, you get y cubed minus y squared minus y plus 1. So, guess what you could also see as an answer? A negative 2y over y cubed minus y squared minus y plus 1. Understand, when I say simplest factored form, or if I said simplest form, which one would you prefer? Yeah, simplest factored form is a lot nicer because you only have to worry about the numerator then, if you notice that more. Okay, guys, that's it for notes. Should this be hard tonight? Probably.
Yes.
That's why there's not tons of problems. Okay, I think there's like 5, maybe 6 problems at most. I don't know. So it shouldn't be too bad. But does it mean you have to pay very careful attention to detail? Just so you guys remember this, on your OneNote, if you look at it, if you go to View, which is what this is in View, you can format the background. For some of you, lined paper is going to be your friend. Otherwise, you get too big. Here's the other thing. The This hasn't happened as much, but it has happened a few times. There's people who just seem to go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as they go. Here's the problem. I kids to the point where I can't read your homework at all because it's literally cutting the problems in half and creating new pages with them. I don't give credit very much for those because if I can't read the homework, it doesn't work. So please line yourself up and just go down the page. Are you guys with me on that? I can scroll with no problem. All right, it is textbook stuff, my friends.